Let's freaking go. Just starting things off right off the jump with KHAI PREAN going to the transfer portal. Obviously, not the best news, but it's not bad news if you ask me. So far, and mostly during the transfer portal era, LSU just has not lost any real big names. It's not been like Texas A&M, where Jacoby Matthews enters the transfer portal, and plenty of other key players. Walter Nolan leaves Texas A&M. So whether it's KHAI PREAN or someone like Jackson Howard, a lot of the guys that have entered the portal at LSU weren't really contributors at LSU, and it was probably better for both parties involved that they go their separate ways. So, for me, I have no problem with KHAI deciding to go somewhere where he's actually going to get playing time and actually going to get targets. And here's the funny thing about it is we don't even know if he's good or bad. It's just too hard to rise up the ladder in being an LSU wide receiver, right? He had a good spring game. Obviously, he had the deep touchdown, albeit against a fourth stringer. Ultimately, I do think it's better for both parties that they move on because, look, he can go to Tulane, light it up, get targets, and maybe come back to LSU the next year. So for me, I just don't think it's a good or bad thing. In many ways, it opens up a slot for LSU to go get another player who probably plays a position of a bigger need. So for me, KHAI PREAN going to the transfer portal, not really a shock. Now, the big news from today for our channel is our Bryce Underwood interview was released. Now, if you're a patron, you already saw it, but it is now live on YouTube. You can check it out for yourself. Power Hour LSU. And look, I was very fortunate to be around someone I think is truly going to be special at LSU. And rarely is a quarterback someone that is the number one rated player in any recruiting class. Normally, I am very worried when it comes to ranking quarterbacks, especially when you compare them to other positions, because it is such a totally different thing and a timeline of greatness. But man, Bryce is just so freaking good. He really is. So I highly recommend you check out that interview. It is linked down below. Now, I think for me, Brian Kelly is going to have a small adjustment to recruiting. I think he is going to dive even deeper into recruiting the trenches. We've seen what he's done with the LSU offensive line position. Now defensively, we have not had a deep defensive line in a while. So I want you to really think about this because there's so many people that have brought up the defensive tackle depth. And look, we say out of pressure. I'm getting to actually hang out with pressure tomorrow. Bruce, good to see you. Jordan, good to see you as well. Yeah, all right. We have seen him with Justin Jefferson. Let me bring something up that actually lost my train of thought. Let me go to my prep. By the way, first $20 super chat gets an Xavier Debo Atkins autograph poster. Crap. And I didn't. This is actually just like a completely different point that I wanted to get into. I drew a blank. But, okay. Yeah, I do remember. The defensive tackle position, when you really break it down at LSU, all right, this past year, the LSU defensive tackle depth was pretty good, right? You had Mekhi Wingo, you had Jordan Jefferson, you had Jacoby and Guillory, you had Mason Smith. That's a pretty good defensive tackle rotation, if you ask me. 3 of those guys are probably going to get drafted here in a week and a half. At least 2 of them will. All right. But you look at the year prior, Mason Smith gets hurt basically on the first snap of the season, and the defensive tackle depth still wasn't great, right? Jacoby and Guillory was the number 3 guy. But if you remember, Jaquelin Roy and Mekhi Wingo played a high volume of snaps. High. And as you keep going on, really the last LSU defensive line at defensive tackle that was truly deep was the 2019 group. They were loaded at that position. They started Tyler Shelvin, Rashard Lawrence, and Glenn Logan. And off the bench, it was Neil Farrell, Braden Fiocco, and Siaki Ika. And then that next year, we were still relatively loaded at DT, but we went through a positional switch, as many of you know. And since then, we just haven't fielded an unbelievably deep defensive tackle room. So I think from this point forward, when it not only comes to high school recruiting, just in general, there's going to be a bigger focus on recruiting high-level defensive tackles. And I think that's part of the reason why they paid the money they paid to Bo Davis, because it needs a good fixing. And until we get a good fixing, these depth issues are going to continue. You know, for me, pretty much every LSU defensive line coach that has been here over the last couple of years have been pretty good. You know, I liked Andre Carter. I was a huge Jamar Cain fan. I think he did some really good things. We don't know what Jimmy Lindsey would have done, but still, I don't necessarily think it's coaching. It's just how many different coaches have been through here, and some of it is recruiting and developing. We've just had a lot of DTs that just have not given us a whole lot up to this point. So we've got to go get some guys. We really, really, really do. And I think Brian Kelly will make it a point. Now, obviously, Jakeem Stewart for the class of 2026 is the number one player in the country. He's in Louisiana. They call him Thanos. He's a defensive tackle, but you know, it's 2026. He might be a 2025 guy. They're talking about some reclassifications, but still, it is an issue. It really, really, really is. So I think Brian Kelly will adjust, as he always does. We say hi to Lance. We say hi to Cliff. We say hi to Jordan. And we move along. Now, next thing I want to get into. LSU baseball. All right, so Jay Johnson met with the media. I didn't listen to it in full. I just kind of followed some clips, and it sucks. Like, it really, really sucks where we are right now. All right, obviously, you know, you beat UNO. You got a winnable series coming up here versus Missouri. But it is what it is at this point. You know, they I was speaking with someone that follows LSU baseball pretty closely, and you know that there's debate with Bradswell at shortstop with all the errors, but he's a good hitter. I mean, there's just been all these different issues, and the team just isn't good. Like, I feel uncomfortable saying it. The team isn't good. It's okay to have a down year, though, especially if you're having the down year after you lose Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, Cade Beloso, Trey Morgan, and so on. It's good to have a down year. We're great in gymnastics. We're great in softball, great in football, great in women's basketball. I can live with it. But next year will be the year. It'll be the year. LSU softball, some big games coming up for them. LSU basketball, both men's and women's trying to get it done in the portal. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Now, anything you guys want to get into tonight, you feel free to do so. We don't go as long on Wednesdays. It's normally just a check-in, and then we'll be live again tomorrow at 8:15 Central. Now, I wanted, and we sat at LA Mom, good to see you. I wanted to briefly brush up on one small subject that I don't think is really that big of a deal because we saw this coming from a mile away, but it was official today that you could transfer as many times as you want. All right. You could transfer as many times as you want. La-di-da, la-di-do. And look, you guys don't, I am very, very pro-transfer. Pro-transfer. Every kid should be allowed to transfer. Okay? It makes life a lot easier on high school recruiting because you could recruit a kid and he's actually probably more of a 3-star and he can go down. All right. Now, actual high school recruits getting into college programs, the transfer portal has really hurt them. But if you're good enough, you'll find somewhere to play and then you can work your way up. I do think the transfer portal is a mostly good thing. And what I would push back on just a little bit is a lot of people that are very like pro transfer and pro player, which I side pro transfer for pro player. I think the transfer portal should remain the way that it is. But what I don't get is when people say, well, if coaches can move as many times as they want, players should be able to move as many times as they want, which I agree with. Where I would push back on, though, is people really don't care about coaches. They really, really, really don't. Perfect example. If Caitlin Clark had transferred from Iowa to a different school, it completely changed your fandom. Now, if her coach went from one school to another, completely changes things, right? Not as much as if Caitlin Clark transferred, because youngsters and fans are fans of the players, right? Yes, a Kim Mulkey, if she were to go from Baylor to LSU, we saw what she did. It's a huge needle mover, and Baylor's program is still decent, okay? The truth is, people watch sports for the players because that's actually what you see when you watch the games. And when coaches leave, it's normally just a head coach, some assistants. Maybe the program's not as good if the coach leaves or not. I'm not saying it's not a needle mover. It's just when I am watching a program, like for instance, let's take Houston basketball. All right. I like watching Houston college basketball. I do. And the reason why Houston college basketball is good is because they have Kelvin Sampson. And Kelvin Sampson is the reason why the program is good. But I don't tune in to Houston basketball to watch Kelvin Sampson. I tune in because they're good, right? They're in the NCAA tournament. One thing that really helped Houston college basketball in the NCAA tournament is their point guard has remained the same, Jamal Shead. And that was so cool. I was like, okay, if I'm tuning into Houston college basketball, I know Jamal Shead's going to be running the show. Jamal Shead, if he would have transferred, could have got $1 million to go be a point guard at wherever. He's that freaking good. But he stayed at Houston. I'm sure he's getting compensated or whatever. But that is something I miss. I miss the college point guard that stays at the schools for long periods of time. Okay? Wade Taylor at Texas A&M. He's about to go somewhere else. All right? Is Buzz Williams more important than Wade Taylor to Texas A&M? Yes. But I don't tune in to watch Buzz Williams sweat on the sideline in a 3-piece suit. I tune in, and if I see a player I'm familiar with and familiar with the brand, it matters. Okay? And it really, really does. Like, I like players that have been at a school for multiple years. It develops continuity. It develops, for me, when I tune in as a neutral supporter, you just think of that school when you see that player. You really, really, really do. And, with the players now that are transferring an unlimited amount, there are multiple guys that have transferred back to their original school, or they transfer and they don't even make it through a spring practice and they get back into the portal. It's not good. It's not good for you, the fan. It isn't. Okay. So I am pro transfer. I am pro player. All right. But I like seeing the same player at the same school. All right. That's just my personal preference. And I also think it's good for the player. Okay. It's really good for the player because those fans are going to stick with you until the end. They're going to. But if I was a player and I got offered more money to go somewhere else, I would probably take it too. So once again, I'm just pointing out that when players are jumping around, I think fans will still, I don't think they'll quit college sports, but it is frustrating. It really, really, really is. Like, you know, and it didn't help at the beginning of this argument. I had something caught in my throat. We go to Cliff here. Not that many top tier coaches, lots of top tier players. No, you're right. It is. There's definitely a more scarce amount of top tier coaches. You are definitely right. Jordan says Armando Bacot. That's a really good one at North Carolina. Now it does help. You know, how much better can it be being a record-setting power forward at North Carolina? But you're right. You know, when I tune in North Carolina, it's like, oh, look, it's Armando Bacot. I know him from a Final Four that happened 2 years ago. All right. And I know the COVID year helped out with a lot of this. But, you know, one story that just drove me insane. Tyler Barron. All right. So Tyler Barron is a defensive end for Tennessee. And he was a good one. He was a really, really good defensive lineman. Hit the portal. Committed to Ole Miss. Then decommitted from Ole Miss. Committed to Louisville. Now, apparently, he's back in the portal. But now there's rumors that he never left the portal and he's still going to be at Louisville. He's doing all of this while recovering from an injury. Now there's some Tennessee fans that think he could be going back to Tennessee. That's not good. How is that good for the player, for the schools, for the coaching staffs? It's not. It's not. And, you know, this weekend, I did a TikTok on this earlier today. I watched this Chip Kelly interview he did with Joel Klatt on Fox Sports. That was a nationally broadcast spring game. And Joel Klatt asked Chip Kelly, why did you leave a head coaching job at UCLA? Now, there's more to it. UCLA had soured on him, whatever. But he said to Joel Klatt, the reason why I left to go be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State is because I wanted to coach football again. And there was a lot of people that didn't understand what that quote was saying. They said, what do you mean? You were coaching football at UCLA? No, you're not. When you are the head coach of a football program, actually coaching football is probably 20% of the job. Okay, 20%. So that's why when Chip Kelly said, hey, I want to coach football, he's coaching quarterbacks. They're locked in at quarterback. They don't really have to worry about it. And now he's getting to coach scheme again, coaching actual football, developing actual players. You're the head coach, you're working the phones. You're working the portal. You're doing NIL fundraising efforts. You're doing 1,000 interviews. You're doing Feinbaum every week. Offensive coordinator? Nah. You do maybe one interview every month, maybe. But you get to go back to coaching football. And by the way, if you're an OC at a big school, you're still making $1 million. Now you're not making 5, 6, 7 like you would as a head coach. But there you go. Now, I did see Shay Dixon tweet this out. I saw Shay this weekend that LSU is out of it for Kermani McClain. All right. Jordan says McClain to LSU. Or at least I thought I saw that. I actually saw Shay this weekend. Would it be nice to have a marquee corner? Yes. It would be very nice. But the last time we brought in a 5-star corner who played a lot in his first year, and it still wasn't enough, and there was attitude concerns, he became the single most destructive LSU defensive back in history, and his name was Denver Harris. All right? There is no defensive back in LSU history that did more to destroy a team in one season than he did. All right? I do not want that. Okay? Now, I don't know Kermani McClain, but what I do know is he set Twitter ablaze being in a Twitter Spaces with a bunch of very emotional Colorado fans. Okay. Culture fit matters. And that's part of it as well. You know, if you have unlimited transfers and you as a player know that you can go wherever the hell you want, leave as many times as you want, as long as you're in the window or whatever. I mean, I just got to be honest. It's hard to build a team. It's hard to build a team that way. So I'm just very disappointed that we are where we are right now. I know a lot of people are going to take what I say a minute ago. Carter doesn't think players should be allowed to transfer as many times as they want. That's not what I'm saying. All right. My point is there is residual damage when those things happen. There just is, right? I think I saw. What was it? I saw Alabama basketball. He just made the Final Four. They had a bunch of guys hit the portal. I was like, what? Really? So I don't know if Nate Oates processed them. I really don't. But it's interesting that the portal is its own thing. Now, next thing. Let me see. Good. I wanted to touch on this. I was going to save for a little bit later. I know some of you want to talk some Pelicans after what happened last night. We can. Zion out for the playing game coming up versus the Kings. I am a big believer in preventative stuff, right? So, like if I'm Brian Kelly, I'm telling every player in the locker room, don't go speeding. It's not worth it. It's not worth being Rashee Rice, even if there were no fatalities. It's not worth it. One thing I would hammer home again, and I do think that the story could come back up in the Twitter sphere because of what happened today in the NBA. They banned a player for life for sports betting, on the team. Okay. And insider trading. And his name was Jonte Porter. I believe he's related to another NBA player. And they banned him for life. All right. Y'all, even if you're not an athlete, It is amazing how much sports betting can rot someone's brain. Like what Jonte Porter tried to pull off, and that's the young man's name. What was insane. I would hammer it home again. If you play college football for a big brand, don't even sports bet. Don't even try to do it. And especially, do not do it within the confines of the facility. Because there's geotags. It's easy to figure out where you are when you place bets. Because it's everywhere. And I am a sports bettor. Okay. I would go and keep telling my players, and this is for any college coach, whether you're a UL coach watching this or McNeese or whatever, there's action on all of it. Be careful. It's not worth it. Zero accountability, Danny. It's zero. I saw a women's D2 basketball coach cite the portal and accountability as a reason why she retired. Not is that true? I don't know. It seems to be a little too convenient when some coaches bring it up at times, but it is what it is. Let's go to LA Mom. She says, I don't think a player should be able to transfer as many times as they want. There needs to be guidelines that structure it so that it benefits the players but doesn't wreck the coach's plans. Yeah, I don't think – I think you should be allowed to commit and go to a campus once every year. Okay? So, like, for instance, when Caden Proctor of Alabama left Alabama to go to Iowa, you should not be allowed to come back. You shouldn't. In that same calendar year. You make the decision, you got to go. You got to go. But the issue, it gets slippery, slope-ish when it's like, hey, if we're going to make guardrails or whatever, are they employees now? Are these collectively bargained contracts now? And then obviously, the NCAA doesn't want anything to do with that. So there you go. Now, here's what we're going to do. Got a pretty big show lineup for tomorrow. Going to have dinner with my parents tonight. So in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this thing going. We normally go an hour on Wednesday night streams, but I'm here for you guys. Right here. Me. I did a show. I jump on other programs, and I've done, I think, 3 spots this week, and I got interviewed by someone who was in front of a fish tank. Now, I don't go into other people's houses hardly ever, but I don't remember the last time I saw a fish tank in a house. I just don't. I think I need a fish tank in my backyard, in my background here. Like, there's nothing that gets my juices flowing like a fish tank. Like when you would walk in, like the one thing where Walmart started falling apart as a society is when they got rid of the lobster tanks. And It's just crazy. In the middle of Walmart, they would have freaking lobsters with the rubber bands around the freaking claws, and you could just go pick one out. Well, here we go. Come on up, Sebastian. Like you could just do. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? The lobsters. Type Y for yes. Type in for no if your Walmart had this. It might have just been mine. But they would have their rubber bands, like lobster claws could go. They would have the rubber bands and the I almost said the fins, but their claws would be shut. And I'm like, really? In the middle? I don't know. It was so cool. I'd be so scared to touch them. Sally Mom said she saw it in Red Lobster. But did you ever see it in your supermarket? You like crab chips? What are crab chips? What's up, Hyper Ninja? Good to see you. Yeah, I guess it was just me. Let's go to pressure. Some of those guys stay in the portal unsigned. They do. Josh says the running back from Georgia, Andrew Paul. Very interesting. Side to Lance. Prez of PHL's in here. Buster snuck in here. What's good, man? Tez, what's up? I mean, I don't know. Like, Joe Monger, what's good, man? I guess I'm just too pro lobster. I'm shocked that I'm the only one that lived in a town with the supermarket that just had the lobster cage in the middle of the store. You're in Arkansas for work right now. Have fun, man. Mick, what's up? Thanks for your comment on the video from earlier. Red Dog, what's good, man? I don't know what crab chips are. That kind of concerns me. Yes, Ralph, they don't have the ball cages in there anymore. Or you can those huge bouncy balls. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it does suck losing Kai. But he'll probably go to Tulane, catch 30 balls next year. And or wherever. He can go to Louisiana Tech or somewhere. Had a good spring game, though. If I could say one thing though about the portal, all right, I do think the college basketball transfer portal is wilder. I do think it's wilder than the football one. The numbers might not be the same, but like college football or college basketball is a little like more positionless. So there's like more infinite possibilities of players going elsewhere. Like, for instance, Rhode Island and Seton Hall, I think it was like 6 of the 10 starters in the NIT final are all going to Power 5 schools or something like that. Gene, welcome to the channel. Everybody, welcome Gene. And the Hammond, Louisiana Walmart. There we go. I'm glad it wasn't the only one. But everybody, welcome Gene to the channel. Everybody, welcome Raising Mason to the channel. But yeah, this is what I always say. Sometimes the decision just kind of comes mutually, right? Where, yeah, the coach and the player, and Schumacher, you know this, I'm not saying this to you, but for those that aren't totally familiar, you can catch a 50-yard bomb in a spring game. Part of it could be that he wanted to put film out for other great coaching staffs to see. It's always tough though to play wide receiver at LSU. All right. And I always go back to this point. If you're an offensive lineman and you want to go to a Power 5 school, sure, the scheme does matter, but you just want to play. You want to be one of the 5 people on the field. You just want to play. Okay. If you're a defensive player, you just want to play. If you're a wide receiver, not only do you want to play, you want to get targets. And it's like a lot of receivers can go out there and give you D1 Power 5 reps, but are you going to get targets? So there's 2 hurdles you have to climb a wide receiver, and it's really hard to climb them at LSU. And honestly, I think there are quite a few players, and this isn't just LSU, I see it almost everywhere, that legit just sit on the bench at a Power 5 school just because it's a Power 5 school and never actually play. My thing is, if you're not at least part of the rotation after 2 years at a school, what's the plan? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. So Gene says a Hammond, Louisiana Walmart had him. There you go. You go look at him. Lobsters. Ralph, One Direction. One Direction. Harry, Niall, Liam, Zane, and Louis. There you go. All right, we'll take a few more here. One thing I've seen in the NFL draft. So if you would have told me like 5 months ago, Carter, you have to bet your life savings. Will Brock Bowers get drafted ahead of Brian Thomas Jr.? I think everyone would say, hey, Brock Bowers is that dude. But he refused to do athletic testing, like actual running and all of that. And BTJ exceeded expectations with this athletic testing. The best LSU player of all time when it comes to RAS athleticism. Now, BTJ is probably going to go ahead of Brock Bowers because Brock Bowers did not run a 40. It's very interesting. That has been, to me, and I love the NFL draft. I love NFL draft discourse. Have an NFL channel. That has been the player that I've been hearing the most discourse on. Of course, outside of the quarterbacks, everyone wants to talk quarterbacks. But there's been a little bit of a Brock Bowers fade. I find it interesting. He is the best college football tight end I have ever seen. He is the best. So if I truly do believe that, then I would have to think he's going to be good in the NFL, right? I would have much preferred BTJ go later in the first round behind some of these other receivers. So, knocks a little bit of the pressure off of him. But now that he's going to be in like this first half of the first round. It's interesting. Let's go to Chillmonger. He says, do you think Ricky Collins comes out of fall as a QB2, or does he get surpassed by Swan or Hurley? Carter, I never got my Singleton autograph. Well, yeah, I don't think he ever emailed me. I think I still have another one, another Thailand over here. I'll send it to you. Just shoot me an email with your address. You might email me again, and I didn't see it. So yeah, send it again. I'll happily send it. I was wondering. I kind of forgot about it, but no, I never got an address. I've had a few of these sitting. I got Xavier Atkins. I got quite a few of these. So if you $20 super chat, I'll send one out. I think I have one sitting over there. But we go right here. First super chat of the evening. Thank you so much. I do think Ricky will be your QB2. I do. Now, am I unbelievably confident in him being our QB2 going into next year? Probably not. Do I think he's good? Yeah, I think he's good. I think he does some things really well. I thought he had some really good scrambles. All right, there we go. I got it, Chillmonger. Thank you. I'll send it out right after this. I will never promise anyone on here a Burrow autograph. Unless we're doing like a massive giveaway. Because I think maybe the only Burrow autograph I have now is a Funko Pop and my Power Hour LSU t-shirt. But when I'm bigger than Colin Cowherd here in about 2 years, got to be bold. I will get it to you. Just for you, Semper. Yeah, so I like Ricky. I do. I always felt he was more of a year 3 guy than year 2. I thought he needed quite a bit of work, and he's put in the work, right? Quarterbacks are later bloomers. And it's hard. It's really, really, really hard to play quarterback anywhere. It's hard to be a starter at Kent State. Only one can play. So for me, I would go with Ricky as my QB2 because he does give me some rushing. I don't think Swan had a bad spring game. I know he threw a pick in the red zone portion of the game, but I'm cheering for Ricky. I'm hoping he's a QB too, and I will happily send your Singleton autograph. I do think though your quarterback room next year could very well be Nuss, Hurley, Bryce. Okay. I honestly don't have any Ricky Collins cards. I don't really think any Ricky Collins cards exist. I wish they did because I would be a collector because I'm a fan. I spoke to actually someone really close at the spring game to Ricky, and he's really excited. Really excited at how hard he's worked, and um, and it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Besides to AP, we have 88 scholarship players on the roster. We can only have 85. Plus, he wants to add a couple more portal players. You're right. Got to cut down. Got to get some schollies open. My thing, AP, is like, I'm bored. I'm kind of with all the fluctuation that's happening in college sports. I'm kind of wondering if they're if scholarships are even going to be a thing in football. I mean, I think that they will, but let's just say you break off into a super league or whatever. I can easily see a super league saying, hey, you can only have 90 total or 100 total players, period. Walk-ons and everything. I could see it. I could see it. Let's see. Oh, man. Oh, man, that is so funny. Oh, man. No, I'll save it for tomorrow. For tomorrow's show. Do you have a prediction on which position sees the most transfers this season? I'm guessing wide receiver. Yeah, I think there will be a few more. Um, some are just kind of common sense at this point. We saw Connor Galbraith hit the portal earlier today, a backup rotational tight end. Unlike KHAI PREAN, he actually did play in meaningful snaps this year. I think the tight end room is pretty locked in, so I don't think you'll see any transfers there. I could see an OL or two leave. I hope no tight ends leave. We honestly need all of them in there. Wide receiver, yeah, I could definitely see that. Running back, it's pretty locked in. I don't think anyone leaves at running back. And then on the defensive side of things, yeah, I mean, I could see another one of the edge guys because that is a very, very, very stacked room. Go somewhere else, and I could see a DB or two leave. Here's one thing I'll say about the secondary. Even though there is a pathway to playing time in the secondary, I do want to include that the defensive back coach change was two-pronged, actually three-pronged. Not only did the DC leave, the safeties coach and the corner left. So now you have a new DC, a new safeties coach, and a new corners coach, or Corey Raymond is just known as the secondaries coach. That's three new voices from, in particular, a defensive back room, even though they weren't great, they were around those coaches for multiple years. So there could be some DBs that leave. But what I would say, and I don't think LSU is going to be in it for Kamani McLean. Okay, I don't think so. But I could see some movement in the secondary, which may be a good or bad thing, just depending on how you look at it. I'm not sure if you want McLean, though. Need to use Bryce Underwood's dad. Let's go. Yeah, that was definitely a top 3. Let's go. Gabriel Relaford is definitely in there. Jay Hill is definitely in there as well for best let's go ever. Ahmad Bro is up there. Maurice Hampton's in the portal. If y'all are interested, Mo Hampton. Yeah, we did a film study on the Kent State guy last year. So, yeah, we'll do it again. Next 5 to 10 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you do super chat, we'll keep it going. TPVN. I thought you fell off the face of the earth. Yeah, of course I remember you. Welcome. Good to have you back, man. Or woman, I don't know. Oh yeah, no, he did. He did. But look, this is something that's happened today. So one of the big ringer draft writers wrote an article today, or did a charting today, and said that Jaden Daniels gets off his first read too quickly, or he doesn't sit back into the pocket in the field, something like that. He said in the games that he charted, less than 50% of the time, or only a third of the time, he would sit back and actually throw. And my response to that, as someone that's watched every Jaden game and done a film study of every single Jaden throw at LSU, Malik Neighbors just got open. Would you not throw to Malik Neighbors almost every time? And I think you can get into like a slippery slope with the first read, second read stuff, right? Like, yeah, in the NFL, you got to go to your second, third read. And in Jaden's first year, he didn't do the best at that. But it was clear, if anyone that actually watched Jaden this year, that there were massive strides in his processing. Now, can he always let the ball go a little bit sooner? Yeah, but I mean, that's never really going to be a strong suit. His playmaking is going to be a strong suit. One area I do think Jaden can get better at and why I think the throw, like the touchdown throw to BTJ on the run was a big deal is that, there wasn't a whole lot of Jaden throws on the run, right? Like where he's rolling out right to the left and throwing. And part of that is, when he beats the pocket, he's so much faster than everyone. It is more efficient for him to just plant and go. But I still can't get over Jaden being the best quarterback of this draft. I truly, truly, truly do think he's the best QB in this draft. I am not high on every LSU player going into the NFL. I think he's the best player in this, and the best. I don't think he's the best player in this draft. That's Malik Neighbors. Jaden for me is like, I think player number 8 or 9 that I personally think in the NFL draft. But I think he's the number 1 quarterback. I would take him over Caleb. It was a mixture of both, TPV, and it really was. Now, I appreciate all our top super chatters. Chillmonger led the way. He does so almost every time. I appreciate you making time in your busy schedule for hanging out with us, and all of you for making time in your busy schedule. We will be live again tomorrow night. The Baton Rouge Real Superstore had live lobsters in the tank and the best cookies. I like that. Now, please, if you can, please go hit that button, that link, and watch my interview with Bryce Underwood if you haven't already. Let me see. I'm just trying to think who, like, I think Byron Murphy is really good. I think the defensive tackle out of Texas, I think he is really freaking good. I think Latu, the end, I think Latu, the end out of UCLA is going to be so good in the NFL. Let's go to Chillmonger. He's super chats. We'll keep it going. He says, Carter, I submit to you that he is the best player in this draft. LSU does not win the games we won without Jaden. Neighbors could have been replaced by any other receiver. No disrespect. Oh, Chillmonger. I am glad it's a super chat, but I will happily discuss this. All right. No one's arguing that Jaden is, like, if I think he's the best quarterback in this draft, he is the most valuable player in the draft. All right. Because quarterback is the most valuable player in sports and in any sport. Where I would push back, though, is there is a difference in value than there is in who is the best at something. Right? Like, for instance, one of the best players in all of LSU football history when it comes to being the best at something is Avery Atkins, the kickoff specialist. For 4 years, we had 80% touchback rate, which was top 10 every year. He was the absolute best kickoff specialist, but it's not as valuable as, a middle of the road quarterback, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't disagree with you. Jaden was the most valuable player, one of the most valuable players in LSU history, Jaden Daniels. Where I push back on is there were some games we would not have won without Malik Neighbors. Alabama 2022, the catch down the sideline versus Elias Ricks was just unfreaking believable. And then obviously there were a lot of games this past year that Malik won. He had so many big plays in that Missouri game, as did Jaden. So, Malik is about as valuable of a player you could potentially have. That is not a quarterback. And I do think, let's just say Malik didn't play a game versus Alabama or something like that. I think he would move the betting line by 2.5 points, which is a lot for a wide receiver. I think he's that dominant. So, I do not think he could have been replaced. And you said you don't think Harrison could have done what Malik did with Jaden as quarterback. Yeah, Marvin Harrison is awesome. He's my number 2 player in the draft. But he's not any other receiver. You know, your comment says Neighbors could have been replaced by any other receiver. Marvin Harrison is not any other receiver. If you say any other receiver, I think of a replacement level receiver, like a good receiver. So let's just say this past season, we did not have Malik Neighbors, and Aaron Anderson or Chris Hilton was the guy. I think we're one or at least maybe 2 wins worse. So, you know, like Jaden is still my number 1 quarterback. He's still a top 10 player for me in this next year's NFL draft. Now, I'm not, Mike Renner or Dane Brugler when it comes to like NFL draft evaluation. I don't have some massive big board, but I do my own evaluations and all of that. And Malik Neighbors is the best NFL draft prospect, period. Now, what I would say, though, and I understand that comes off very biased because, most have Harrison number 1. We have seen more of the national media come around to Malik Neighbors being better than Marvin Harrison. To the national media, I would say, welcome. We've been dealing with this since the Bolitnikoff Award. But, for me, there are 4 all-time great, transcendent NFL draft prospects at LSU. And once again, I'm not saying NFL players at LSU, and I'm not saying LSU players at LSU. I'm talking about their actual draft profile. There were 4 all-time great players that I thought I would bet that they would make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And those players are Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Patrick Peterson, and Malik Neighbors is number 4. Okay? Those are the 4 guys I would bet a large amount of money. I wish I could. I wish there was a futures market right now. And I'm surprised at a sports betting. Now, this would be a futures market. But I would bet a large sum of money that Malik Neighbors is going to be a Hall of Fame level NFL player. I am that confident. And once again, wide receiver, a big part of you being a great wide receiver is your situation. And it is nearly impossible for Malik to go to a situation better than Jamar Chase. And it's going to be very hard for Malik to go to a situation as good as Justin Jefferson's situation. So, yeah, I think Malik joined those other 3. And I don't really like putting Burrow with those guys because quarterback evaluation really is so different than all the other positions. But there you go. Now, there were other LSU players I thought would be really good pros. I thought Morris Claiborne was going to be a really good pro, and it didn't work out. And yeah, no, I would agree with you. Quarterback is way more difficult than wide receiver. All right, it is way more difficult. I'll give you that. But I would say if we're just looking at who is better at their positions, Malik Neighbors might be the best LSU wide receiver I've ever seen. He was truly that special for me. And I thought I would never see someone better than Jamar Chase. Or wait, why is that doing this? I have no idea why that did that. Dude, there's all these fancy things. Did y'all see that? I have no idea what that does. Like, there's thumbs up graphics. It's crazy. Yeah, I thought Devin White would be a really good pro GE3. I really did. But he did not move the needle like those other guys did. He just didn't. Now, Patrick Peterson, I'll admit, I was severely biased at the time. I was younger, and I knew Patrick well, but he there was no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind that he was going to be a Hall of Fame player. Okay, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And everybody, welcome GE3 to the channel. I love the professional headshot. Jason, I was sparkling like Kim Mulkey. But yeah, I thought Devin White would be a really good pro. But I'm saying bet your inheritance that he would be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And I'm willing to do that with Malik Neighbors. I really am. Before he ever plays it down. Okay. Oh, it's a very doctored headshot? Oh, you what do you mean by doctored? You put a Snapchat filter on it? I like it. I need Snapchat filters, man. I'll tell you this. I've been losing weight. I ate horribly last week, and then when I got to Louisiana, Cane's box, another Cane's box, chicken wings. I was just stuffing my face, and I looked at myself in the video, and Lacey Dex Productions was shooting me in 4K. I looked like I weighed 280 pounds. I looked bad. Ugh. TPVN thinks BTJ will be a bust. Oh, Chillmonger, what does that mean? I look like a Caniac lover? Huh? Well, I am. You don't have to out me like that. I do need to get back on the weight loss train. I do not think BTJ will be a bust. It's just I don't think he's as good as Malik Neighbors. I think BTJ is a later round, first round pick. It is very, very, very expensive though, drafting him in the first 15 picks. That is a very valuable asset in a wide receiver class that is really deep. But BTJ athletically is unfreaking believably special. I think he'll be very good. I really do think so. I think BTJ will be very good. I think you could see like a Devonta Smith type of NFL career. And Devonta Smith just got paid a lot of money. Thank you, G3. I appreciate it. I'm glad you jumped in. I didn't know it took me talking about NFL draft prospects to get you to comment, but I appreciate you, man. Subscribe, ring the bell. Hope each and every one of you join the Patreon. Get my bonus film studies and previews and get to talk with me and LA Mom and everyone else in there. Ralph says BTJ in the Pro Bowl first 2 years. Quite a few LSU receivers made Pro Bowl in first few years. Jefferson, Chase, Landry, Beckham, and and DJ Chark. I'll tell you, Jordan, you need to go get a shape up at the Amy Barbershop, man. You bring them up. I can see Jordan up there getting a taper fade, wavelength against the grain. You and Ishmael Softer. Oh. That's so funny. You bring it up all the time. Oh man. Yeah, so that's why I look with BTJ. Like, I loved him a lot more when he was going into first round. Like, he's going to like a for real legit franchise. One place I think would be a good fit with an ascending quarterback would be the Colts. I think that would actually be a really good fit, and that would make a lot of sense. He doesn't. He The reason why I like the Colts is he doesn't have to go in and be the number one guy. He's used to being a number two guy. So Michael Pittman just got paid. Get him a solid number two and put Josh Downs in the slot. And you're cooking. All right, we'll take a few more. If you super chat, we'll keep it going. I actually thought I was going to sign off an hour ago. I was supposed to go to dinner with my folks, so they'll be okay. They'll be okay. I might be watching me right now. Trevante Valentine. I actually have his autograph, and I might have given it away. His autograph, he just literally put TV. I loved it. I loved it. I also think, God, we tried so hard to get him into LSU so many times. I think he played like one game. But actually, because you brought him up, Chillmonger, I'm going to keep my Tylen Singleton autograph here. And I'm going to send you my Trevante Valentine because apparently you're a big fan of his. Actually, let me see. I might, you know what's funny? I might have an Ollie Gay signature. I know Ollie Gay is an Omega Sci-Fi, so I think you might prefer that. But speaking of Trevante Citizen is in the portal. So if I find my Ollie Gay autograph, I'll send you that one. How about that? If not, I'll just send you the Singleton. Now, we will talk to you tomorrow, ladies and Gentiles. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! And tonight, we're barbecuing, baby. Let's go. Let's go.